Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Mahim Mehta, who is the founder and CEO of funstay.in, a one-stop solution for extraordinary stays and experiences. Mahim has attended Xavier Institute of Management Bhubaneswar. Mahim had worked for companies such as Tata Steel and Strontium Technology for 7 years before starting his own venture in 2017. So, hi Mahim, welcome to Entrepreneur Lounge of India.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you so much for having me here. Good afternoon to you and everyone who is watching the video. Probably they'll be watching later, so just hi to all of them.
Mahim, I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Sure. So, hello everyone. My name is Mahim, and as Priya mentioned, I am the co-founder. I'm not really the CEO. I am the COO of Funstay.
Okay.
Nitin, who is my business founder, is business partner, is the CEO. So yeah, I did my MBA from XIM Bhubaneswar, after which I had worked for 4.5 years for Tata Steel. I was in sales initially, and then I moved to brand management role, and I was based out of Calcutta, which is the marketing headquarters for Tata Steel for almost 3.5 years.
Hmm.
And then I moved to this company called Strontium, which was a much bigger, much smaller company in terms of number of employees, because moving from Tata Steel to Strontium was like moving from 26,000 employees to 26 employees kind of thing. So it was a very different shift for me, but there were a lot of opportunities in terms of things that you can do. When you get a uh, ground which is a level ground, it's up to you how or what you want to build on that. So it was a great opportunity and great experience for me. So I started working for Strontium in 2014. And Strontium is basically, I didn't say anything about Tata Steel because everyone knows what Tata Steel does.
Hmm.
Strontium is a memory card manufacturer. They manufacture memory solutions like USB, memory cards, RAMs, and SSD drives. Right. So it's a Singapore-based company. So I was largely involved in building their e-commerce channel in India. Amazon, Flipkart, and all the stuff like that. So yeah, after working for Tata Steel and Strontium, there was a time when I thought of starting my own stuff. It happened not just as a single day thought, but there were various tipping points throughout my experience wherein I thought I have some idea and probably I should work on it. Uh, Over a period of time, I found such instances coming too frequently, and then eventually I just thought, okay, let's go ahead full time into it and give it a shot. So that's very brief about me.
Hmm, very interesting. So now I would like to ask you to tell us a bit about what Fun Stay is, and what also you may talk about the other venture you have built called Instago Online. So how did you came up with this idea, and what is this particular business about?
Okay, interesting. Uh, I'll I'll say one by one.
Hmm.
So Funstay is basically an experiential travel company. Okay, I'll just put it very simple. Experiential and travel are two important part of it. So what we do is we have a platform called funstay.in, wherein we started off with having your experiential stay options. So it's a booking platform for experiential stays. So, for example, you take stays like estate bungalows, heritage bungalows, tree houses, jungle resorts, which are not your run-of-the-mill accommodations when you go out. It's not just like a normal hotel room and something. There are a lot of things in and around the property. Sometimes the property itself is very experiential in nature. So to say, by the virtue of the way it has been built, the virtue of the amenities that it has within the premise. So Furnished provides a platform wherein you can come search for such properties and book it. So that's what Furnished does. And uh, so we started off with that, and then we expanded into providing a full custom built packages services as well. So a lot of our customers, once they had experienced our service, came back and asked us, why can't you do the entire holiday planning process for us? And that's how we said, let's give it a shot. And we tried and custom build holiday and vacation packages for our existing customers. and then rolled it out as a general service to everyone and started marketing the same as well. So that's what Funstay does. Uh, how Funstay started is, uh, I mean, both Instago and Funstay, the thought came around the same time. So it was, I think, in 2014, early 2014. I was just switched job from Tata Steel to Strontium and was supposed to move from Kolkata back to Bangalore, because that's what I was going to be placed in Strontium. And around the same time, Nitin Agrawal, who happens to be engineering batchmate, flatmate, and a very, very close friend of mine, he was thinking of starting something around travel at the time. And uh, so Nitin and I had actually backpacked Europe together in 2011. And one thing which we realized is, the kind of way, I mean, for for us, we both come from small towns in India, right? Like very, very small town. So the way we saw people from other countries traveling, I mean, they were more into experiencing the local place, talking to people, exploring the food and culture and history. And initially we were all about going to the monuments and clicking our photos with the monument and just sticking that out, right? So we found that there's a very different way in which people from other parts of the world usually experience and travel. And that's, I think, was the first point wherein we thought we should try and change this culture in India. We should make people travel in a more inclusive and more experiential way when they go outside. I think that's what Nitin took from our that trip and started of building a company in 2014. So we kept on talking. I was still employed. Nitin had gone full time into it, and I was still employed. But we kept on talking from the very beginning, and that's how Funstay came into existence after a lot of gradual process and talking. And Nitin was doing it, and then I got more and more involved, and then we together came. And in 2017, we actually started doing it full time. So that's Funstay for you. So what happened in case of Instago is in 2014, again the same time. Uh, so when I was moving from Calcutta to Bangalore, uh, I knew that I'm going to face one specific challenge when I move, right? So I'll tell you what that was actually. So in Calcutta, it's easy to move from one place to other. Like it's not as big in terms of, the traffic and all. It's not as huge as Bangalore, and there are certain pockets in cities where most of the people actually, the working, like if you're an IT guy and mostly you're staying in Salt Lake side, if you are in uh, companies like Tata Steel or ITC and all, you're living more in the south side of the Calcutta and all those things. So uh, so I had a bunch of colleagues, very close friends as well, and we used to play certain games on weekends and afternoons. And since we stayed nearby, it was very easy to go and meet them and play with them, all the stuff. Uh, when I was moving to Bangalore, I was thinking, now where do I find people who have the same set of interests in terms of games and sports that I want to play, or certain other activities that I want to do. And I didn't know how to find them. I mean, I can talk to my friends who are already there in Bangalore, but they might be staying 20 kilometers away from me. I cannot meet them so very often and do stuff that we should do together. So that led to the idea of Instago. So Instago is basically a social discovery platform. The way it works is, let's say one fine evening you came back from your office, you came back a little early, let's say 5 o'clock, and all of a sudden you want to watch a movie in nearby cinema hall, for example. And all your friends are busy, they are not there to go for a movie along with you. You don't like to go to movie alone or something. So all you do is you put out a shout on the platform that, hey, I'm going for a movie, is there anyone nearby who want to join me? And the person nearby you who has the application sees, and if he has interest, he can just say, okay, let's join and go together. So it's just like, very simple, like when we are young, and when we had to go out and play in the evening, we just used to go out in our locality and just knock on everyone's door and say, okay, do you want to go and play? And just gather the entire team and go and play in the playground. So it's very similar to that. The idea is, in our apartments in Bangalore, there are so many flats and people uh, are there. Let's say someone just above your flat, right? He might be interested in playing a certain sports, like let's say badminton, but he's not at the badminton court at the moment. and I also want to play, but we both are in our apartment. So I don't know him. We are not at the badminton court. How do we connect?
Mm.
He's also thinking if I knew someone and all, right? So we just shout, and you set a parameter list, like, within a kilometer or something you want to find, or within 100 meters you want to find. So within that parameter, it will find people interested, it'll match you, and then it'll connect you and you can plan your things. So that's how Instago works. So both this came from our own experience. So I'll say, we, for most of the times when people start something, it eventually has some kind of their own personal experience into it. So that's how both these things came across.
Hmm. I think that is a very interesting model you are building, and very useful, at least for people like me. I'd love to find people with similar interest around me. Very
Right.
good, very interesting. Uh, Now I'd like to go deep into your early days of entrepreneurship. Would like to know how the process exactly happened when you started out. For example, the things you have to you know. For example, there is your founder and you are there. You discuss the idea between both of you, and then your founder has decided to quit his job. There would be pressure on you also. You are on board with the idea. Also, you have a full-time job. Whether you quit the job, or whether you quit the venture itself, you part ways with your founder, and continue with the job. So I think similar situations would have arisen. Anything you'd like to
Hmm.
share on that?
Hmm. I think I understand what you're saying. So how do you actually decide with all the dilemmas in mind when you're taking that first call? Like, you
Right.
have your job, there are certain constraints with your, could be because of your family or your financial conditions. People study with the student loans, so their loans to be repaid off.
Right.
But then you have a great idea and you have a great opportunity to go ahead with. It's not really a straightforward answer, Priya, I'll say. See, it all depends on how passionate you are about the problem that you're trying to solve,
Hmm.
and how much you believe in your solution. I think these two are very important factor which helps you take that decision. So if you feel that the problem that you're trying to solve is really important and has to be solved, and there are enough number of people having that problem, first thing, right? And second is, you have to also be sure that the solution that you're building is really something that people will relate to and will try to use.
Hmm.
You should actually not just go, once you have these two, then you know that you want to go ahead in this line, right? But now the question is, how do you manage your other part of the life? Could be finances or something. So I would say, don't make a rash call and jump ahead full time into any such things. Try and do a small, if possible, market viability test. Just test of market with a small number of people. Try to build a minimum viable product, that's what they say, MVP,
Hmm.
and test it out first and see what the reaction is. You don't want to take all this risk and build something that no one wants to buy,
Okay.
right? So do think, be a little more rational. So you have to slog a little bit, you have to do your work, you have to make sure that that is going on well.
Hmm.
Take extra hours out of your 24 hours, put some time into it,
Hmm.
build what you want to solve, test it out, and see the initial reaction. I think that will help you to decide whether to go full time into it, or uh, to not. Or if you realize, okay, it can still work, but I need to make some changes. So that's one way to go about it. The other way is, if you have, if you really trust your co-founder, and if there's a lot of confidence and comfort among two of you, which is very much required, I would say,
Hmm.
uh, you should see if one of you is in a position to take things forward on a full scale time,
Hmm.
right? So you are still there to support, and
Hmm.
there's one person, probably if he's in a better position to take that call, he can take a lead and start things off, and then you can take your time, set your stuff, plan your finances, and then get into it. So I wouldn't say it's a straightforward answer. It will depend from everyone, but all they have to do is they have to have a very open heart to heart discussion with themselves. You can talk about all the things in I mean, talk about all the air castles, but you need to talk ground reality with your own self.
Hmm.
Take a rational call. Uh, it's so if you're the idea is if you're passionate and you know the solution is there, it's all about figuring out the operational details, how and when, right? You know that you're going to do it. It's just about how and when. I'm sure the people, if they know the first two part, they'll be able to fix the other two as well.
Okay, understood. Now, one more question around that. I think this is the same issue many of the uh, uh, initial founders or co-founders are facing. While starting out, there has to be a proper synchronization, or what I would say, a proper connection with your co-founder. Without it, there would be trust issues, and then there would be, both of the co-founder would have a different level of commitments personally and professionally. So how does a match arise? I think what I'm trying to ask is, how do you decide whether you have committed to your co-founder that yeah, you quit your job, you do the work. What I'll do is I'll fund the operations. This is my contribution. How do you decide, yeah, these would be our commitments to the work? And again, we are human beings. We many a times we fail to meet our commitments. So how do you deal with such a situations when it arises between your co-founders?
Right. Okay. I mean, for me, it was not really that difficult because Nitin and I are kind of very, very close friends from last 20, 16 years or so. We have known each other for long. It was not a random meeting. So we know each other quite well in that sense. And uh, so, so that trust had not happened over a period of, 5 meetings over coffee or something. It has because we grew together in engineering. So that trust was there for me. So I won't say it from a personal perspective, but I'm saying in general terms, uh, you you have to be. So the question of, see, it's all boils down to how much of trust you can put into you. I mean, deciding on role, who will work and who will fund and all, is all just operational stuff. I won't say that matter. It's just two. It could be different for two other people. Like it's just they might decide if they want to fund together, they want to put in a part of their savings, or one person will fund, the other will work. This all could be discussed as their operational issues. What is more important is you have to understand if you both have same vision, if
Hmm.
you have the same kind of passion towards the common problem that you're trying to build,
Hmm.
uh, and that there should not be a class of general philosophy in terms of general cultural philosophy or what you want to build and how your company should be. That should not be there. I believe if those three things are aligned,
Hmm.
finding who is going to work, who is going to, and then you have to trust each other.
Hmm.
So it's not easy to find. You cannot just bump into your co-founder. It doesn't happen so often. I mean, there are platforms which help you find co-founders and all, but
Hmm.
to be frank, I don't know how that works, because for me, I'll never be able to work with someone whom I have not known for quite some time. I really need to know that person to go jump into a business with them.
Right.
Many times also what happens is there's history for you to see. So what happens is, let's say if you don't know, like we both don't know each other, but then if I've been in industry for 15, 20 years, or I've been working for 15, 20 years, I have a history to what I've done, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So that gives an idea. If you really don't know each other, you go and check the history and validate if that person has really been true to what he has committed previously, like to different organizations maybe, right?
Hmm.
So in general, the general personality of the person is that yes, he's true to the things that he commit to. And similarly, you have to see if the skill sets are something which complements yours. And
Hmm.
so you can kind of just do your evaluation like you do any other partnerships in the world, any other thing. I mean, it could be like meeting someone at a later, how do you do friendship at a later stage of time?
Hmm.
It's just similar to that. I don't think it's any different equation over there.
Hmm. Many of the co-founders I meet, most of them, they have found their other co-founders in school or colleges, or maybe their blood relations. Uh,
Yeah.
in India, there is a trust issue. in Europe or in US, I think most of the co-founders uh, they find the other co-founder through a similar vision or similar interest level. But in India, it is crucial that we share something in common, that something more solid we have in common. For example, we have studied together for at least 4 years or so, right? But let's say I'm an entrepreneur. Or I am a guy who has some brilliant ideas. But in my circle, the school I am studying in, or my friend circle, I don't find people who are energetic enough to play my co-founder. What do I do?
Right. You are in a tough situation, I'll say. See, it's not easy to find the co-founder. I'll be very, very frank. It's not easy to find a co-founder if you cannot find in your own network. There are platforms, and for that, it boils down to two things. One is uh, being able to find a person who is interested in what you're doing. Forget whether he'll join your board or not. Just finding a person from anywhere. Like, you can go LinkedIn and search and find, okay, this person has a profile which looks like
Hmm.
might fit into my vision. You reach out to him. Now the thing is, you cannot share your vision with him because you don't really know him. So
Right.
that becomes a question mark, right? So you don't have to share your vision right away, but you can start talking about the general common interest because you have similar vision, right? So
Hmm.
you can talk about it, and people usually like talking about general common interest, and you will realize after few interactions that whether you can go ahead and discuss a slightly more confidential stuff with him or her or not. You can always sign an NDA and all, but I really don't believe in all this stuff. Uh, I mean, startups don't really have the capacity to go and fight any kind of disagreements or anything. They cannot afford court fees and all. So initially, it's all just good for peace of mind, so to say. I don't know how much of it can be implemented,
Right.
but yeah, it's not easy. I don't think I have an answer for you that that's how you can go and find a co-founder. The best way is try network. So someone who might know someone who might know someone. So there's some kind of validation. If you find in that network is the best thing.
Hmm.
But even how that works, even I cannot really say that, because it's not necessary their friends of friends is someone that who you can really trust, because you don't really know that person, right? It's multiple links. So best way is go objectively, find a person who matches your vision,
Hmm.
check his background,
Hmm.
okay, in terms of what he has done previously and how dedicated he has been to that cause, so
Hmm.
that okay, this person, if he comes on board, he'll be true to the overall cause that you both are trying to build,
Right.
right? So just go with the objective parameters. If you don't know anyone, reach out, talk, get that initial connect,
Hmm.
and at the same thing he'll also do with you, like he'll also see whether you fall in the same
Exactly.
category,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? So yeah, but I don't think there's an easy way out. I know a few platforms which help you find co-founders. So they'll take you in a course kind of thing over 3 months or 4 months. They'll take you through various exercises and connect people who have similar vision and say, kind of find your partner. So that the entire idea is, during that session, you're supposed to find a partner for business.
Hmm.
But I personally, I don't know if that works.
Okay, I think I should check out those platforms if it is actually useful. Anyway, so now we will go into the personal side of being on and being an entrepreneur. In fact, we
Mhm.
are discussing about the personal side. So, would like to know what motivates you to pursue something of your own. What is it that you did not find in your full time job?
I wouldn't put it what I didn't find in my full-time job. Let's say that's I don't I don't really compare and correlate these two things, job and entrepreneurship. These are very two different mindsets. So I never really compare these two. But what motivates me for doing is, the only thing I believe is, I personally am someone who likes to be a little more free in what he wants to do.
Hmm.
I think one of the factors that most entrepreneurs usually seek is uh, trying to have a little more independence in the actions that they want to take, the causes that they want to chase, the dreams that they want to chase. And sometimes that might not be the things that the company that you're employed with is doing. So there's nothing wrong with the company. They are doing what they are doing. But you might want to build something else. So that's just it's just that you want, and that's not the mainstream of company. Many a times tech companies allow their employees to give ideas and take it forward. Google gives time for people to build their own stuff during the company time. They give resources also, and then probably if something is good, they'll take it forward and maybe partner with the person. But if you are not in a company wherein such kind of flexibility is there, and you have come up with something which is not really relevant to company's business, and you really believe it in it and want to do it, then that's what it motivates you to take that call. That there's something that you want to build, and the current situation doesn't allow you to build. So what do? You try and move out of the situation and then try to build it.
Right.
For me, it's all about having that independence to build what things are coming to my mind. So, I mean, like you said, right? You have great ideas, but you don't know what to do about it, right? So, I guess that's what I also feel many times when I see different stuff. I start looking at solutions to problems that I see, and many times I want to build it myself. So that's what keeps motivating me to pursue things on building. I think it's just not something that you control. It keeps on coming, and you want to build stuff. Then it's all it works that way.
Right. Mahim, I have a very interesting question for you. If I
Mm-hmm.
am to make a movie out of your life or your entrepreneurial journey, how
Mm-hmm.
would be the opening sequence like?
Wow. Oh, very interesting question. Uh, I'll probably need to think. So, opening sequence of okay. So it has to be a backstory kind of thing, and the opening sequence has to be me just being very happy it's somewhere in the mountains. I guess that's the end point to all what I'm doing, right? So to be happy, so I would start with the end point.
Okay, nice, nice, very interesting.
I mean, so there's a lot of backstory to it, but at the end I want you to run it as a backstory.
uh, uh, so it will start with you sitting on top of the mountain, then
Anywhere, I mean, the idea is to be happy and in peace. Could be in mountains because I just like greenery, so I just said mountains. But yeah, something like that.
and then we will take the viewers.
Backstory, yeah. And then probably back to college days. So it will be like uh, I'm just thinking out loud. It's kind of funny also, right? So okay, that's the scene, and then you go to different years. So you saw something incident from a school time, because I said my becoming an entrepreneur was not one point, but there were multiple points in time when I had some thought that okay, maybe I should build something, maybe I should build something, maybe I should build something. So probably it will show few incidents which have led me to think of certain solutions. I may or may not have built it, but so 1920, I thought of something, I thought of something, I thought of something. Then it shows some discussion between me and Nitin on to build something, and yeah, something like that. Year, something like that.
Okay, nice. My, what was your first day of entrepreneurship like?
First day of entrepreneurship. Hmm. I think I don't like to go ahead with big sudden changes. So it would have been just similar to any other day.
Hmm.
Probably a little excited with a new beginning, like it happens in any new beginning.
Hmm.
There's a lot of excitement of how you're going to do it, what all things will happen in next 1 week. You set some personal goals because it's a change. So every time you do a professional change, it invariantly happens that you also take up some personal change
Hmm.
also in target. Okay, so I want to start doing this couple of new things on a personal scale and then do all these things. So I don't think it was a big change in terms of that one day, the first day.
Hmm.
Yeah,
You
it
don't
was full of
remember, do you?
excitement.
You don't
No,
remember?
I remember. I remember exactly the date when I came back from Singapore and the first day that I went to my office here. But I'm saying I'm not a person who would want to make huge changes on one day.
Hmm.
So my first day was I was just trying to absorb things, like because that was my first day full time into it. I was just taking a stock of things, what has been happening, who's doing what, like just getting a stock of all the things happening and making notes of it and trying to understand, not making any big changes on the first day. There was a lot of excitement. I was just trying to understand what is going on at the moment, and was making very, very rough sketches of where we should be or what we should be doing next. But nothing strong, nothing concrete happened on the day one. If you ask 1 month, it would be a different story. If you ask 3 months, it would be a different story, because once you understand in a couple of days, you kind of discuss, brainstorm over a long period of time, and then jot down the action points that you want to do in
Mm.
2 months, 3 months, something. So things take it's a very steep learning curve, I'll say. Entrepreneur, the first day might not be very, very steep. The idea is to understand, but yeah, as you move, the first week is fast paced, first month will be fast paced, and you keep on doing more things in less time as you progress. But first day for me specifically was no different. It would have been same as moving from one job to the other. It's just that I had the satisfaction of doing something that I have started. That's the feeling that was there.
Right.
But otherwise, everything else was okay.
Hmm.
Same.
What is your vision, Mahim,
In sense, in terms of,
in terms of in long term? What is your ultimate vision? This is where I want to take my venture, or this is what I want to do in future. I mean, this is how I want to retire from the from everything.
so you're asking my vision for as an individual or my vision for my companies?
Both, I would say, both. You can share either or
So
both.
So personally, see, I think I'm not such a complicated guy, to be very, very frank. So as long as I'm happy doing what I'm doing and just enjoying it,
Hmm.
it doesn't really matter. I just have to be in peace with myself and happy and content doing what I'm doing. I
Hmm.
should feel like I'm following whatever thoughts are coming to my mind and learning and exploring and getting more perspective about life. That's what my personal goal is, to increase my perspective about life. So everything helps as long as I'm happy and content doing it. So personally, it's not really complicated. For ventures, yes, I would want to see them at certain scale, uh, at a scale where I still have probably I I mean, I do not want to compromise on the values that we want to create as a company.
Hmm.
So as long as we are earning decent money to sustain our expenses and providing opportunity for all the team members to grow and explore their dreams as well, probably at some point of time, that's what the vision is. I cannot put a number to this is where I want to put my companies to. I do have that number, but probably that's very subjective for everyone, so it
Hmm.
doesn't have relevance out of context. So I'm not putting in numbers here, but
Hmm.
yes, the idea is to make it big enough for people to trust it. I mean, the idea is about creating business to build a trust in customers.
Hmm.
If a day comes, sorry, when that day comes, when people will start trusting just by hearing the name, like people say Tata and everyone says there's a trust, right? So you consume and there's a lot of trust and respect. It doesn't matter what business. If we don't even know the financials of Tata, most of the people, right? But we all have trust. So I think that's the vision, to build a brand which is trusted by everyone. In
Hmm.
whatever I do, build trust for everyone, provide the best service,
Hmm.
and build system and processes over there. That's it. As long as you get that trust and that connect with people, you're on the right path.
Hmm. Now, would like to know what were the challenges you faced along the way while building your first venture?
I guess it's still facing a lot of challenges,
Hmm.
but but I believe the biggest one is finding the right set of people. When you're starting off, as you said, finding the co-founder itself is a difficult if you don't have one. In
Hmm.
our case, at least, that was not the question, because we were having. I mean, there were two of us, and then a couple of other friends who were willing to join the team initially. But what after that is the question mark. Like when you have to actually build your team, not
Hmm.
just the founders but the employees who are going to come and become the part of founding team. It's very, very crucial whom you are taking and how dedicated they are to the same cause. It's just a very big challenge for startups, because if you are not funded, and if the thing is, right now there's a lot of options that, maybe I'm not talking about current COVID situation or anything, but in general there are a lot more opportunities than before, right? And there are well paying opportunities for people with good skill sets.
Hmm.
And so for a startup to match that kind of salary level is probably not possible.
Right.
So you have to convince right set of people to take that plunge with you, let go of certain opportunity with, and that will only happen when they believe in the same thing that you are believing in.
Hmm.
right? So finding that set of people initially is, I thought that was the biggest challenge for us, to get people who believed in the same vision, had the right skill sets, because all these people can earn much more than what they were earning in a bootstrapped startup. they
Hmm.
can they can go to a well funded startup and or any other well established organization and earn more and have a more secure career as such,
Hmm.
right? So getting that second set of people after the co-founders, I think, is the biggest challenge, and that is also the difference between success and failure of that startup, I'll say. If
Hmm.
you're able to find the right set of people, you will succeed.
Hmm. Right. So, yeah, I think I can relate to what you mentioned, and a lot of entrepreneurs focus on this particular point, finding the core team. So, there is also a dilemma about how the core team should grow within the organization. As Is it the same way the organization is growing? For example, you have had five department heads. One is marketing head, and there is finance head, and then there is sales head. Then your company grows into a billion-dollar company. It becomes a unicorn. So, do they grow at the same rate? Do they still hold the place of head of sales and head of marketing, or head of particular department? And again, the company from $1 billion to $100 billion, it becomes not 100 but $10 billion, a decacorn. Do they still stay at that place, or how is it? Or do you recruit people from outside who are more experienced and much more capable of doing the job?
Hmm. See, I don't think I'm in a position to comment anything about a unicorn and decacorn because I have not reached there. So I don't really know that. But in general, how the initial team grows, I can say from what I have witnessed, maybe as a part of a bigger organization as an employee, because that's also where you see how, people are growing in an organization, and as a own, my own companies.
Hmm.
So, and it will vary across companies how people will grow. So let's say it depends, right? You have to keep pace with the growth. So for example, let's say someone who has joined in initial few days of the company as in a sales role,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So what happens in a management roles, it's not just a transaction that you have to get to. Initially when you joined, the focus, or probably the role given to you, would be most transaction driven, like, to get things done,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And a lot of revenue pressure will be there on the sales role, because that's what he will be. Initially the planning and strategy largely happens, uh, you discuss a lot of things, but then you hire people for implementation, right? But once things start growing, you want to delegate the strategy, planning, and larger picture part of it to the person who is heading this thing. So as long as your core team member who was doing sales earlier keeps up and also upscales his skill sets in terms of taking a more managerial role in terms of planning how things have to grow. So it depends, like if the company is growing and you keep pace with the growth and upgrade yourself, build on skills in yourself, keep on learning, then it's a gradual process. You can move along with the company and keep growing. Problem comes when initially, see, when you're handling 100 pieces of sales, or I'm just giving you any random example, right? So 100 units of sale, a target is reaching to 1,000 unit of sales. uh, it's easy for to someone to handle, but when you ask that you have to sell 1 million pieces, now that completely changes, and you need to have a different kind of vision to achieve that. You need to have a larger picture how you're going to. You have to have more planning and strategy and execution uh, experience to do it, or some idea to do it, or vision to do it, or whatever it is. But if you are caught in that transaction of 1,100 and you have not seen how to achieve the larger picture, you kind of fall out in the overall growth of the company, because you have to keep in pace with that. It will happen even with the founders, actually. There are times when founders have reached to a certain position, and after which they don't know how to grow it further. And
Hmm.
it's a very much realistic thing, like, it's easy to
Exactly.
build a 100 crore company. It's difficult to build a $1 billion company, because
Exactly.
the scale at where these two works are very different. So that's where in your investors and your mentors and advisors come into play, and many times you see CEO being, they bring in different CEOs from outside. It has happened to the biggest of companies because of the startups in India. I
Mhm.
wouldn't name, but you probably already know,
Yeah.
right? There are big startups wherein CEOs and the senior executives have been brought from outside. They are not even the founders of company,
Mm.
because at some point of time founders were not able to visualize the next step of next growth stage, or they were not able to execute it, or whatever the reason might be, but it was not happening. So they
Okay.
brought in someone who has already done from outside. It all depends on how much you can upgrade yourself, how much you can keep pace with the growth. It's not the company that has to grow, it's you also who have to grow along with it,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
right?
I think that is a very interesting point of view you shared, and very well answered, I would say.
Thanks.
We are almost up with the time. I just have
Yeah,
two more questions. One is, who
sure,
is
sure,
your
sure.
role model when it comes to entrepreneurship?
Okay, different question. I do not really have a role model when it comes to entrepreneurship. Reason being, all the names that I have heard or seen, I have not known them personally.
Hmm.
I do try to follow a few people, but I won't say they are role model as such. It's just that I want to take something away from what they have done, learn from something. I won't say they are role models. I want to follow everything that they have done, but
Hmm.
they are examples of life wherein it's good to study them probably.
Hmm.
Uh, I started my career in Tata Steel. I have huge respect for Tatas. So I would say probably there are a lot of learnings from the life of JRD Tata or Ratan Tata. Like, these people are someone you should read about their lives, things that they have done. There's a lot of things. It's not just for business, but also to build the values that you want to win your business. That's the end of everything, I'll say. So, and then there are people like Elon Musk, right, and Steve Jobs, who tell you about thinking stuff which were way ahead of the times. Like, no one was thinking about those stuff.
Hmm.
So they are good inspiration to see that, okay, these kind of things should be thought on, and they can also work when the entire world is against it. So it's a good inspiration in that sense. But I won't say any of these people are role model as such for me, but these are people whom I look up to and follow in terms of getting some learnings out of their life.
Okay. Hmm. Uh, how do you compare entrepreneurship with a 9 to 5 job?
I told you earlier that I do not really compare because these are two very different mindset. But if I have to still answer your question, I'll say the only difference that I see
Hmm.
is actually the risk that you're willing to take and the reward that you will get in. Why I say so is because, what do you call a 9 to 5 job? Have you ever seen a 9 to 5 job? I have not seen a 9 to 5 job, because if you go into any kind of managerial position or any position of accountability, or any kind of, even for engineering positions, or anything with accountability, whenever there's an accountability in India, specifically in our country, there's nothing called 9 to 5. You're working from 9 to 9, or maybe longer,
Hmm.
right? So you probably end up working or giving the equal amount of time in both the cases. That's what I feel if you are in any kind of position of accountability.
Hmm.
The difference lies is, if you're working in a job, the risk that you have is shared among so many other employees, and you don't have to take care of so many other stuff
Hmm.
that happens in the company. So that's how the risk gets shared, because people are doing different stuff, and that's why the rewards are also in proportion. So you get a certain reward of company's performance in terms of bonus, or you get certain salary because of the work that you're doing. So
Hmm.
it's just about the risk that you're willing to take and the reward you spend. I believe you spend enough time. If you are a sincere person working, you spend enough time on your job, whether you are doing entrepreneurship or you are in a 9 to 5, so-called 9 to 5 job. I have not known any 9 to 5 job in my life, to be frank. All my friends whom I've known, people, they keep on working all the time. Like, they're working for someone else, but they keep on working. They start 6 o'clock in the morning answering a call in US, somewhere in US. Then they are working with India team later at night and struggling to release the product on the deadline. So they're all dedicated people working very hard. It's just that they don't want to take that risk, or it's not necessary, it's not important for everyone to take that risk.
Hmm.
uh, it just, so that's the only difference I see. You take a shared risk, or you take a risk which is shared by lesser number of people. In entrepreneurship, if you have two partners, the risk is shared by two of you. The rewards will also be shared by the two of you, right? So the difference will be to taking this jump from a very large shared risk to a small shared risk is that passion and opportunity and the solution that you believe in. If that happens, you probably will take that jump and take a bigger risk and get a bigger reward.
One last question. What is your final
Yeah.
message for our potential entrepreneurs or future founders of the different companies?
Okay, so one thing I would say is uh, we live in times which are amazing in terms of access to people. Like, there's social media, there's internet. You make anything, like anyone can start a YouTube channel and create. It's like earlier you cannot have your news channel. It requires so much of setup. Now, if you have good content, if you are really, uh, producing something that people want to listen, you don't need you. There's the infrastructure is there. You can just go ahead and build it and put your hard work and create it, right? So the amount of opportunity present, amount of resources which are freely available to you, there has never been a time before this, right? We are living in times which are amazing in terms of having free resources to build stuff. There's YouTube for people who want to create their news channels there, or any kind of broadcasting channels, right? There's blog, there's internet, there's e-commerce website that you can build and reach directly to customer to sell products. There are companies who are willing to pick your product from your place and ship it to someone else. You don't have to do everything. There is infrastructure which comes at a little cost or no cost at all, actually. So just try, and there's nothing stopping you. It's, if you know there's a problem, if you want to solve it, you can think of a solution, go for it. Put everything, be very, very dedicated to what you're doing. So have to be truthful to yourself. Don't do it because you have seen people around you doing startups and all, or you have heard the big billion stories of people making huge monies. Don't do it for that. It doesn't happen so quickly. And for every $1 billion story you see, there are 19 other stories that you don't want to hear.
Exactly.
Right? So don't do it for all those stuff. Do it if you're passionate about a problem, you want to solve it, and just know that there are enough things to help you around as long as you are working and giving in your full. Things will fall in place. Solve one problem at a time. Don't get bogged down. Stick to fundamentals. Keep it real. Don't get too much carried away by all the news that you see about the big stuff happening. And it takes time. It all takes time. Nothing happens over time. Be true to yourself. Keep on doing. You'll succeed. That's how I see it, I guess.
I think we have come to the end of our session. It was a great pleasure to host you at ELI. Also, Mahim, it gives me immense pride to see one of my fellow alumni, uh, a senior alumni, to found multiple ventures. So, really proud of you.
Thank you so much, Brett. It was great being with you, talking to you. And I say that I am in no position to give any advice to anyone because I'm still on that journey, right? But so all this I've shared is some learnings that I've got on the journey. Anyone who hears it should take it with they should take it as a something that they need to think upon rather than believe it right away. Just points, food for thought. So whatever I said is just food for thought. Take it that way. I am also learning at this time, and continue, the learning process keeps on going. So yeah, pleasure being here. Pleasure talking to you.
I think our audience would have got lifetime lessons from this video. Thanks for your time, Mahim, and our best wishes for fun stay, Instago, and your future ventures.
Thank you so much, Priya, and my all the best wishes for ELI. And you guys are doing a great stuff. Keep doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Viewers, you can follow and connect with Mahim on LinkedIn by searching for Mahim Mehta. Also, do visit Funstay website by typing funstay.in. So, whom do you want to have here at ELI for next episode? Do let me know in comments below. We will be back before you know it. Stay tuned to Entrepreneur Launch of India.